Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining our webinar today. Okay, we'll be starting right about now. I can see our speakers are already on ground. My name is Fumi Ogunleye. I'm the programs coordinator for Center for Legal Support and Inmate Rehabilitation. And today we are privileged to host this great webinar commemorating women all over the world for the incredible work they are doing. And I can see a lot of women are on here. Please, we celebrate you greatly. Okay, so at Center for Legal Support and Inmate Rehabilitation, like our name connotes, we offer legal services, rehabilitation services, and re-entry support to justice impacted individuals. Over the years, well, we are 3 years now and we are growing. Over the years, it has been a wonderful ride. Over the years, dealing with these people has been a wonderful ride, and we are more than elated to actually share their story and impacts with you. And this webinar has become of essence because we believe these people, talking about inspiring inclusion, these people should be talked about. You should get to know their rights, their stories, the struggles they face. They are more like the marginalized people in the society. People don't even get to think about people in prison. People don't even get to focus about them. People care less about them. Our society at large cares less about them. But these are people that are mothers, they are sisters, they are friends that have been in conflict with the law one way or the other, and they're trying to find their footing back to society. How do we ensure that these people are reintegrated properly? Last year, we are actually privileged to establish the first of its kind safe house in Nigeria for formerly incarcerated women. And we've seen through the house that this transitioning process is actually needed. This transitioning home is needed for those people. It's something that's become it's something that women need. Women need this support. Women need to come back to society to be greater, to be better. They need a safe haven to feel safe and secure. And that's why today we have amazing women from different fields of the world that are experts dealing with or working with formerly incarcerated people or those in incarceration, coming to talk to you today, coming to shed light really on what the struggles of these people have been, on why there is a need to consider these people in policy making, on why there's a need to talk about these people when we are actually making reforms in society, when we're actually talking about establishing new set of laws, when we're talking about including people, when we're inspiring inclusion generally, we should be talking about those people. We should inspire inclusion as a whole. And of course, formerly incarcerated women lead to the progress of the society. And so right about now, I'll be going on to introduce our amazing speakers. And now speakers, I thank you so much for being early. Thank you for being on ground on time. Our first speaker, we have Ms. Akosua Akufo. She's a dedicated human rights activist and CEO of Titanzing Comfort Home, advocates for justice system reforms, and provides agricultural entrepreneurship training for women. Drawing from our own experience of incarceration to amplify the voices of incarcerated women globally. As a member of the global group of experts for penal reforms international, Akosua are recognized by the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights and is a member of the International Network of Formerly Incarcerated Women, where our efforts have secured grants for organizations to empower women with skills, training, and seed grants for community development. Thank you, Ms. Akosua. Our next speaker, we have Ms. Maikaita Magarenzo. She's a lawyer, a passionate advocate for criminal justice reform, the founder of Alleviate Justice Involved Persons Reentry Association, Zimbabwe, a pioneering reentry organization.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. There's a little itch with our network. Mrs. Koswa, yes, we can hear you. Ms. Makaita is a pioneering reentry, works with a pioneering reentry organization dedicated to supporting individuals transitioning back into society from correctional facilities. Ms. Makaita is also an inspiring and aspiring technology lawyer with a focus on cybersecurity, digital hygiene, and bridging the gap between the law and technological advancements. Thank you once again, Ms. Makaita, for joining us on board. We have Ms. Ogechi Ogu.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. It's Women's Month and neglected topic.
Thank you, Ma. Our third speaker, Mrs. Ogechi Ogu, a principal partner at Benita Law Firm, a seasoned legal professional with a focus on prison reforms and human rights, with affiliations in international correctional associations and advisory roles. She leads initiatives targeting pretrial detention, challenges, and prison congestion in Nigeria, drawing from her expertise in law and a master's in international human rights law. Mrs. Ogechi is dedicated to advocacy, training, research, crafting resources, and delivering presentations on human rights and the Nigerian criminal justice system at various levels of engagement, from local to international platforms. We are so glad to have this criminal justice expert on board with us. Thank you, Ms. Ogechi, for honoring our invitation once again. Okay, we can't reach her right now. And we have also from Center for Legal Support and Image Rehabilitation, Ms. Emilia Ohameze. She is the house manager for the Safe House. Ms. Emilia, transitioning from banking to college entrepreneurship, has been incarcerated after facing a client's truck being delivered go wrong. Spending 10 months in incarceration, she now focuses on aiding women's reintegration through CELSIR training programs, empowering them for a fresh start. Motivated by her own prison experience, Emilia is committed to assisting women in rebuilding their lives post-incarceration, providing necessary tools and support for successful reintegration. Through this CELSIR initiatives, emphasis is based on capacity building, skill acquisition, empowerment, and enabling confident social reintegration. Ms. Emilia, thank you once again for joining us here.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Mrs. Ogu, I see that you say you're unable to unmute. You kindly unmute, please. Okay, so we have these amazing women on board who are here to talk to us about women who have been justice impacted, amplifying their voices of justice inclusive women for an inclusive and just world. How are we amplifying their voices? Why? What is the need to amplify their voices? Do their voices really need to be heard? Are they people that deserve to be considered? Or, like some people consider in the society, should they be stoned? Or should they be left to be condemned? What good can come from people after incarceration? These are many more, some of the things we are looking out to learn from today. And it promises to be an engaging woman. So right about now, I'll be introducing the Executive Director of Center for Legal Support and Image Rehabilitation to come on board, Mrs. Joke Aladesomi, as she will be moderating this panel session with our wonderful women.
Okay, I am here now. Maybe before the mic.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to start by saying happy International. I know it's not here International Women's Day, but I want to say happy International Women's Month. At least we can say that. And I want to say thank you so much for all the amazing women who are here to join us in this conversation. And I'm particularly very excited about the conversation because this is more like the first, I would say, you know, maybe like maybe I might not be right by saying the first, but one of the meetings where conversations are primarily focused on justice impacted women, and we're just saying that in a month like this, where there's so much celebration of women's work, women's successes, women's challenges, and all of the experiences they have, there is need for us to also bring to the forefront the experiences of justice impacted women. And that's because it's high time we need to start speaking about it. And I would just start the conversation by saying a little bit of what came to my mind when I started this work with CELSIR. So I discovered that it looks like the society feels like they do not have a right. I mean, the community we serve now do not have a right to express themselves. They do not have a right to ask for things or to ask for their rights to be given to them. They do not have the right because the society definitely feels that because of course there's a whole lot of judgmental positions and a whole lot of judgmental views with regards to women who are in this category. And I feel like today, being International Women's Day, is a very good day for us to have conversations like this, to say there are women who, they might not be the presidents of nations now, they might not be the one topping the big organizations now, but they are women. And the interesting thing about the International Women's Month is that the month does not discriminate the status or the category or the class of women that is being talked about. So whether, irrespective of your status, irrespective of your experiences, irrespective of where you are, you still fall under the category of women. And that's why we're taking this opportunity to say we're going to discuss issues that relate to justice impacted women. For us, we launched, just as my colleague earlier mentioned, we launched the Halfway House sometimes last year. And I can tell you for a fact that it's been quite eye-opening. We've seen beyond what we have ever imagined. We've heard stories that are so touching and, that breaks our hearts, practically. And that's why we're like, there's need for us to actually start talking about their struggles, their challenges. The world right now is talking about the vulnerability of women. It's talking about the vulnerability of women. It's talking about the challenges of women. And we're using the opportunity to say, justice impacted women have challenges too. So this conversation is going to be very interesting. I have extremely interesting speakers here, and I can't just wait to, I'm here to learn as well, learn from their experiences, learn from their contributions, learn from their recommendations, and just help us all to give us some more clarity as we call for a much more just and equitable world. And I really want to say thank you so much to our speakers here. Mrs. Ogechi, thank you so much for showing up, for accepting to do this with us. Akosua from Zambia, thank you so much, Akosua. I know we've been on a lot of back and forth. I really want to thank you for showing up regardless. Makaita, nice connecting with you so much for showing up. You've been a very huge support to us. And we're just going to go into the conversation. Can I please confirm that our speakers can hear us?
Very well,
Yes,
John.
can.
I hear you.
Okay.
Very well.
Mrs. Oge, can you hear me now?
Very, very well. Yes, I'm good.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ma. Makaita, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you quite well.
All right, thank you so much. And once again, thank you for showing up. So we're just going to go right into the conversation. And like I earlier mentioned to us, that it's going to be a discussion. So we're going to be discussing. It's not going to be the usual formal setting or in form of some presentation and all of that. No, so it's going to be a discussion where we're going to be making valid recommendations that will be put out at the end of this webinar. So I would just go right into it by inviting the speakers one after the other to give us like an introduction of what you want us to keep in mind as we get into this conversation, and what are your thoughts with regards to the topic. What do you want us to what perspective do you want us to have as we engage in this conversation? And I'll start with Makaita.
Thank you so much, Shuki. My name is Mark, and I've practiced as a prosecutor related to justice impacted people. I was dealing with accused persons on one-on-one, victims of crime on one-on-one, and I could hearing their stories and learning from them, I realized that there was a gap in our criminal justice system. One of the things that really stood out was the number of people that continuously came back, especially women. And I would ask them, why do you keep coming back? Do you enjoy being arrested? Do you enjoy being in the company of the police? And they would give me one simple and sometimes straightforward answer, that we don't have an option with us. So, you know, we are really poverty stricken and we have no options than to turn to crime. That is when I decided to start an NGO here in Zimbabwe. I called it Alleviate, which means to, you know, make easy for people who are involved in crime. So yeah, that's my introduction. Thank you. Hello?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, yes, I'm with you. Thank you so much, Makaita. You know, the interesting thing is every of our speakers here have a whole lot of things in common. And that's because, of course, if you've not been working with justice impacted women, you will not even be here. You, like, what I mean is you would not be speaking to us. So it's actually very interesting to hear, you know, the aspects of the work that actually inspired you. And just to do a little bit of I know it has earlier been mentioned by my colleague. Makaita is actually started off as a prosecutor, so I can't wait to hear your views. You know, from being the one, permit me to use the word prosecuting. Let me put it that way. You know, from being the one prosecuting to now being the one on the other side, advocating for the prosecuted. You know, so it sounds like a very interesting shift. So I'm really looking forward to your conversation, you know, with regards to how you've been able to do that transitioning and the progress you've made so far. So I'll be handing it over to Akosua now. Akosua, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Jokie. Good morning to everyone. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Akosua.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes, we can.
Yes, my name is Akosua Akufo, and I am the CEO of Titan Design Comfort Home. This is an organization that was set up to create agricultural entrepreneurship skills training and also to advocate for positive reform in the justice system. I am also an expert by experience, part of Penal Reform International as part of the global group of experts. I also am a member of the International Network of Formerly and Incarcerated Women. So my passion to work in our field of women involved in the justice system came about by my own personal experience. I was incarcerated not too long ago. You wouldn't even believe it. It's 2020. I was incarcerated. I was actually incarcerated in 2019, and then I got released in 2020. I was addicted to drugs for about 10 years, and I struggled with it for such a long time. Actually, the correctional facility helped me to get over that addiction. So my passion comes from realizing that women who are involved in the justice system lack a lot of stuff. And today's theme, or this year's theme of International Women's Day being an inclusive society, you know, I really feel very honored to be part of this webinar and to discuss this issue, because I feel like most of us suffer from a lot of stigma and discrimination. So we want our voices heard. We want seats at the table. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Akosua. Thank you very much. And I'll be going to Emilia. Emilia is actually the manager in the halfway house that we have here in Nigeria. And let her just come, and we hope that she would be able to give us enough experience that we can hold on to and just carry this conversation in our minds as we, you know, call for the right policy change and criminal justice reforms.
Thank you, Ms. Jokie. My name is Emilia Ohameze. I'm the house manager of CELSIR Ruby Home. Okay, as formerly incarcerated women, I understood what it meant that women are not given the opportunity in the society. When they come out, they are not heard, and it affects a lot of them. And these people are family people. These women are people who are shouldered with the responsibility of the family. So at every point in time, you find out that they are not carried along in anything. So being somebody who has gone there and experienced, I found out that majority of the things that takes these women to the correctional center are usually poverty-related issues and also financial crime issues. Now, when they are coming out, what's the hope for them? What's the hope for them? When they come out and they don't find anything to hold on to, they are forced to go back. And that's where the CELSIR Ruby Home comes in. When those women come out, we're able to take them in, make them feel loved, that they are not alone. And then we try to keep them training so that they will be able to reintegrate back safely into the society. In every aspect of the society, women are being marginalized. Let me put it that way. So with the help of this CELSIR Ruby Home and what CELSIR is doing, and me as a house manager, it has helped me to understand, having the experience to understand the women and how to manage, help them develop skills, empowerment, healing, and then finally reintegrate back into the society. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Emilia. And I would be handing over to my most senior colleague, who has been, we actually look up to her when it comes to the work that we do in the prison. She has done a lot in terms of research, in terms of advocacy, in terms of working with justice impacted persons generally. And I'm really so honored to have Mrs. Ogechi Ogu here. And I would be handing it over to her for introduction. Over to you, ma.
Okay, thank you so much, Joke. Thank you, other African countries, for the great work you are doing. I wish to equally appreciate all the participants. This is actually great for this great initiative. You know, at times we always ignore the most, and we keep talking about high achievers and leaving behind those that would have impacted more on the society if they were given the opportunity. So having this discussion is quite critical. And I like the fact that we are talking about inclusiveness, we are talking about just world. And for me, with my experience, around the work within the justice sector, within the security sector too, I think that this topic is quite timely, is quite critical. Now, taking it from the point of justice, access to justice, I could see that a lot of themes have already been raised, the theme of poverty and the ideas around rehabilitation and proper reintegration of women back into the society. Now, taking it from the angle of access to justice, my thought is that for us to give women voice, especially justice-impacted women, one critical element is knowledge. Often we discuss problems of people, and the people that have the problems may not even understand what is the genesis, what is the root of the problems. And when you are talking about giving them voice, the voice might not be so loud as is expected to make the necessary change because it is not coming from the angle of knowledge. All the things we are discussing now as it affects women, some of the challenges equally affects justice-impacted men. But what we are now trying to look at is the distinctive, challenges that affect women because they are women. And the biggest point of takeoff should be ability to understand how we come around all these issues. Now, taking off from the point of poverty, in the first instance, it's not every woman that is impacted by that has come in contact with the justice sector, especially the criminal justice system, that should be in custody. Now, the critical question is, why are some of these persons in custody? And that takes us back to our society, how women are not having equal opportunities with men in several things, especially in terms of economic and social empowerment. Now, when you look at that angle, seeing that what it translates to is that most of these women at the initial would have been opportune to get bail. Most of them would have been opportune to be well defended by a counsel of their own choice, early enough coming into the matter, guiding them through the process. But because of poverty, they are not able to get their own legal representation. Have you seen it? And this is taken back to the society that has created this situation, and the situation of women not having equal opportunities with men. And not only has that happened, the same society equally has made laws. Of course, the definition of crime for many people, Blackstone, from the legal point of view, is that it is any action that has been designated to be crime, which means there is no intrinsic value in crime. It is only what is said to be a crime that is a crime. Now, how come most of the activities these women engage in public spaces to put food on their table are already crime? Some of these is like cases like hawking, like street trading, talking about other things, that can endanger women and put them through the pathway of the criminal justice system. So now, who are the people making these laws? If you give an example from Nigeria, the people making laws from the National Assembly, the women there are not up to 5%. Now, in some states, up to 15 states in the Federation don't even have a single woman being represented in the state assembly. Now, while laws are being made and women are not on the table, you now see the impact of this. And when women are not properly empowered economically, likelihood of their finding it difficult to defend themselves will arise. And even when they are in custody already, they have also issues, because coming out means, even if when they learn a trade and they come out back, you remember again that the society we have is such that stigmatizes against women. The mere fact that a woman has gone into custody is already a big issue. Most of them will lose husbands. Coming back home, such a woman may not find a home again. Some of them, if they are still single, the opportunity of getting married again will be an issue. So they don't even have a place to settle back in. Then we equally have the issue of unemployment, which has been raised here. So the likelihood of coming back to meet a society that is not willing to give second chance becomes a big problem. Back into custody will now arise. So these are, in terms of, if we are discussing this and trying to address, what is the biggest problem is the fact that we are raising have already been accommodated in our own national laws, regional laws. But the big elephant in the room is that are not implemented. Our own section about non-discrimination. It talks of the UN instruments talk about equality and non-discrimination. To that, many of the laws speak to these issues. Even our own Correctional Service Act may rehabilitate women and get them well reintegrated back into the society. So I think part of the discussion will be, what is it that is keeping the laws so distanced from practice so that women are suffering in an environment where they have enough laws to protect them, know of what their rights are. I am so happy with, I think it's Akosua, having, experienced life in custody and out now, enlightening other women. So the important thing that we should be thinking of now is, how do we empower more women so that we have more voices of people that know what should be, and so many of these persons, and not every time it is from the other angle, those that don't have the experience that are speaking to these issues, and it will seem as if we are over. Can get feedback to people that have suffered or are still suffering the system. Let me just sorry, it's okay.
Oh my, it's perfect. It's interesting. We're actually ready for. We're expecting all of the eats, so we're just ready for it. And thank you for bringing in the aspect of access to justice. Is actually a very important part, because the truth remains that, looking at it from that point, it looks like there's a lot that needs to be put in place in terms of implementation of our laws. There's a lot that needs to be put in place with regards to even coming up with these laws. And I love the aspect where you spoke about the fact that we even have few women. There's no way a man can be so used to a woman and will understand the needs, the needs of a woman. It's not possible. But the truth remains that if we have more women on the table talking from the perspective of the challenges and the experiences of women, it's definitely going to be a different ballgame. So I love the angle you're bringing it from, and I really hope that we can keep delving in, and we're also going to go far deeper into that aspect, because while we're trying to look at the experience from people who have actually been impacted directly, the experience from a lawyer who is also a prosecutor, and of course yourself, that is an expert in this field, and putting all of that together would definitely help us to come up with something quite reasonable and something quite concrete that we can put out there. So thank you so much, Ma, for that insight. I think I would want to refer to Makaita. Makaita, you heard some of the things that Mrs. Ogechi talked about, most especially with regards to the making of the laws and the few women and the fact that you have very few women on the table when it comes to making such laws. I just really wanted to know if it's similar to what is obtainable in Zimbabwe. Is it any different? I think I would probably just want to hear your views on that.
Indeed. When it comes to our African setup, I do believe that it is similar across the board, from Cape to Cairo, because we really don't have a lot of criminology experts to delve deeper into criminal law vis-a-vis our African setup. The criminal system that we're actually using right now is something that was handed down to us by the white people. We took down everything they wrote. We took down everything they said, and how we should be operating. But if you look back at our culture, you'd realize we actually have our own way of doing things, and that is the restorative justice system, which is a little bit different from what we are having now. So the laws that we are using, I really and honestly believe that there is a lot of review to be done so that we can at least impart something that really resonates with who we are as Africans. The number of, or the type of prevalent offenses in the United States are totally different from the number of offenses here, from the type of offenses that we are experiencing here in Africa, especially in relation to women. So we really ought to sit down in each individual country, revise our criminal justice systems, revise our court processes, revise everything that we are doing, and then maybe come up with something that resonates with, our African setup. So yes, I do agree with Ogechi. Hello.
Right. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much. I just one more question for you, Makata, before I move to other speakers. I just really want to ask you, because that's like the question we've always been getting, and I would really love you to ask with regards to your experience, like I said earlier, as a prosecutor and now as an advocate for people who have been impacted by the justice system. Do you really think they have a voice? Do they really have a voice? Because come to think of it, and permit me to sound a little bit like I won't say the devil's advocate, I would rather say the angel's advocate now, right? And then the question is, a lot of them, well, I won't be right to say, I'll be definitely wrong to say that, but I would say some of them have actually done something wrong. Some of them should be kept right there. So mind you, I'm not talking as an advocate now, I'm talking as the mind of the society. So just understand my view from that perspective. Definitely as an advocate, I would not be bringing such approach, right? So, but this is how the mind of the society works. They've done what is wrong. They should be kept there. They've stolen the wigs. They've stolen the eggs. They should be kept there. So the question is, do you really think they have a voice?
Justice impacted women, absolutely, they do not have a voice. You see, when you go to prison or when you are arrested, the first thing that comes, for someone who is going through that situation is shock, embarrassment, disappointment, humiliation. So you basically withdraw from society even before society itself starts discriminating you. To discriminate you. So you withdraw from society, you undergo through that trial, and then when you eventually sentenced and now you have a criminal record, and now you have a label that says, okay, you are a criminal, because that's what a criminal record basically says. It basically just labels you as a criminal the rest of your life. So society would then undertake to that and start to discriminate you because of that label. They will not associate with you. They will not listen to you. So you don't have any platform now for you to voice yourself, because first of all, you withdrew. And then secondly, the society now starts to, segregate against you. We even look at big international organizations. I was looking at UN Women, and this other time I got a response from a very big organization that said, oh no, we don't deal with issues in that area. So even with big organizations and big enterprises and big bodies, they really don't look at justice impacted women as women that ought to be, considered. Women become dehumanized, they become subhuman. And when you become subhuman, you basically do not have a voice. So it is important for us here to actually advocate for those women, to speak up and to fight. I'm sure each and every one of us who is here in this meeting today would agree with me that it's so difficult even for us to speak, to voice out on behalf of, justice impacted women, because, there are barricades and barriers that are put in front of us. So yes, definitely, justice impacted women do not have a voice.
Right. Thank you very much. So I would look at it from the angle of their voices have been so silenced that it looks like it's not even there. If I'm right, that's the conclusion I would love to make from what you've talked about. So their voices have been so silenced that it looks like it doesn't even exist. And I guess that also,
yes. Like you're subhuman. When you're subhuman, you can't even, you don't have a table like what Okuso was saying. Like we also want that table. We also want to be able to share our experiences and also highlight the challenges that we are having. So you can even look at, international conventions, treaties, the highest laws on the land. Nobody's really talking about this, population. It's just silent. It's non-existent. When you commit a crime, you're good as, gone. You're non-existent. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah, there's something I need to mention here, which is like one of my observations, one of the observations I've had, or my experiences from working with, criminal justice experts outside of Africa. And I would say that unlike what you have, or what is more like what is obtainable here in Africa, in the other part, most especially developed countries, most of the people who talked about criminal justice reforms and all of that are actually justice impacted people themselves. They've gotten to that point where they are the ones calling for the reforms. They've gotten to that point where they've owned their voices to say, see, there is a lot that is going on in prison in terms of health, in terms of mental health. I was doing a little bit of research recently, and I was surprised to see that justice impacted women have more critical mental health issues than even their male counterparts. Like, they have much more, and it's just totally understandable, because even as women, there's a lot we need to deal with in terms of family, in terms of career. There's a lot for you to juggle. There's a lot to juggle at every time. And one of the worst things that can ever happen to a woman is to be disconnected, disconnected from her children, from her family, and all of that. And it keeps contributing significantly to their mental well-being, and the mental issues they have to deal with day in, day out. And so, comparing that, what is in the developed country now, to what you have in Africa, it doesn't look like they can't talk. Because there's something I used to say, Africa is so morally centric. Like, and I think I got the right word yesterday when I was talking with somebody that said, oh, we are very judgmental people. We feel that you should do right. And not if anybody wants to break the law, it shouldn't be a woman. A woman is meant to be well behaved. A woman is meant to be organized. A woman is meant to be on top of her game at every little time. And I guess that, just like what Mrs. Ogechi spoke about, that it is actually the discrimination that happens in the society that extends to these women. The issue with the society, the way women has been perceived generally, has been one of the things that contributes to most of these women who are incarcerated. So I totally agree with you that their voices have been so silenced. It's been like, it looks like you can't even ask for anything. You can't even call for anything. Oh, to ask for any changes, and it looks like the society is just not ready to move past that. And that's why I really think that there is need for us to amplify these voices, to let them come out and share their experiences, to let them come out and share their challenges, and say, okay, fine, this is what we had to go through, this is what other women are going through. It's so bad that even those who were eventually discharged and acquitted cannot still come out, because of the fact that they were in the prison. That's how much. So regardless of whether you're being discharged or whether you're being let go, you still have to face, deal with that silence that happens with the voices of justice impacted women. And that's why, as an organization, we feel that there is need to amplify those voices, amplifying the voices through the experiences of those who have gone through the system, amplifying the voices through talking about their challenges, talking about their problems. And there was something you said while you were talking about reaching out to some certain organization, and they told you that that they don't deal with issues like this. Like, I reached out to a very big organization that caters for with regard to some of the issues we saw in our work. And we were shocked and surprised to hear that they don't know that children are in prison. And I'm like, are you joking? You can't say that. Like, why would you say you don't know? There are a lot of children in prison. The last time we visited, the last time we visited, that was in February. They had almost like 16 or 20 children there. So it simply means that even the reaction to their mothers are extending to their dependents. They're extending to their children. They're extending to these little ones. And, the problems that these children have to face can also not be amplified. That's what it means. And that's why I love I love the direction the conversation is going. I will just direct it to Mrs. Ogechi on her views as regards the voices. Do they even have a voice? And if they don't, is there a need for us to start talking to amplify these voices, no matter how low it is? And what are just your thoughts on it, ma'am?
Okay, thank you so much. A voice. We all have. Everybody has a voice. But what matters is how do you utilize that? What issues are? Are you aware of your rights? The major problem we have is that the law. But often the people that the law is are not even aware that they have such protections. Help. And the person you are trying to help, let me just give you a little example. Maybe a girl child has been raped. They will rush to the police to report. And in a few hours, to help, in a few hours, they will just come back to you to say, to continue with this matter. And it still gets back to, your voice gets stronger when you have economic powers. You now know your rights. You want to go ahead, because when they consider, maybe even if you are providing free legal services to them, they still need to transport themselves to court. They still need to do so many things on their own. And when they consider all these things, the normal thing that happens in our climate, which is I leave it to God, will be the next thing. So the point I am trying to make is we should start dealing with this problem from the root. Number one, in terms of empowering the women first. Maybe part of the work we should be doing is going into correctional centers to enlighten these women on what should ordinarily be their rights. Let us leave aside whether they are receiving this or not. Because if you look at Bangkok rules, it makes it clear the issue you raised about women being caregivers. There are provisions that are drawn. Of course, you know that the Bangkok rule is following from the Mandela rules, which talks generally about persons in custody, treatment of persons in prison. Now, but the Bangkok rule now came to address distinct challenges that women face. And it started with ensuring that women are well documented, that women, even the number of children they have, that even to the extent of ensuring that they are kept in custodies that are close to their homes, or even not close to their homes, close to an institution, maybe a social welfare institution, where in a case where they don't have, where their children can be kept, at least those children will be close to them. And you equally have provisions on the mental health of women that are in custody, how this must be given, priority, attention. When you go down to the Tokyo rules, that's UN minimum standard rules for treatment for on non-custodial measures, you equally see that there is a particular rule dedicated to women, which stipulates that consideration should be given to the mental health of women because of the caregiving status role they play in the society. So when you are considering people that should be given non-custodial sanctions, women should be part of that, because incarcerating a woman rather, can affect up to 10 people in a family. It can affect a whole community. It can even go to the root of the whole essence of the criminal justice system. Let me give you an example. A woman that has 5 children, assuming the husband is not even around, and maybe this is a single mother, and you incarcerate this person. By the time she goes into custody, what happens around these children? You know that a lot of things will start happening. First of all, they won't have food to eat. They may not be able to go to school. Neighbors will start missing things in their homes. And what does that, entail for the society? We are consciously building a team of other children, other persons that may be, in future criminalized, because at the time they should be receiving care, there is no opportunity of such care. So what I am saying in essence is that we have laws that should be protecting women. But the challenge we have is practice and the mentality. You mentioned it earlier. Some people, you've seen women that are, we've not even mentioned the challenge of gender-based violence while they are in custody. You see a woman, whether it is at the law enforcement agency, that's the arresting agency stage, or while in correctional service, you find that things happen to women coming from the mindset of persons that think, how dare you? as a woman go into a crime like this. This should be for men. A male woman like you are a terrorist, you are an armed robber, and your punishment will now be channeled away from what the law says to another thing. That could be rape. Are you getting it? You have the audacity to go into this kind of crime as a woman. You are daring men now. So that is the mentality. We find out that even law enforcers carry that, what do you call it, mental state, or that idea that men are on top, women are down, into implementation of the laws. Now, these are some of the issues. And what you'll be asking, like within our own jurisdiction now, we have provisions in the laws. We have acknowledged the fact that women should be supported beyond what is existing, protecting their rights. Like if you look at Section 34 of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act, it makes provision for one all-women correctional center, a custodial center in every state of the Federation. As we speak today, I think we just have 3 of such.
It's 3 now.
Somebody told me, yes, that
I've actually thought it's 2. What's the third? Where's the third one, ma?
Lagos, Kirikiri,
and Adamawa.
You have Adamawa, then Ogun State. I just said about that recently, like only 3 states. So you now ask yourself, what is difficult in making this provision? Knowing fully well where the lawmakers were coming from, criminal justice reform experts, ways of actualizing this without spending so much money. And it will be easier when you are targeting only women in a facility. It makes it easier. Sanitation matters. Many things. I was just reading the Bangkok rules and saw that they were one of the rules is providing that women should be provided with sanitary towels. Are you getting it? And you start wondering who is making such provision. I remember in 2005 when I implemented a project. In fact, by that time I had never had thought that I was a teacher that time, but I was an inner wing member. So the year I was made chairman or whatever again, I did my project within custodial center in my town. And what did I take to the women? Pants, sanitary towels, bedroom slippers with my little funds. I knew that they needed that. Now, the question is anybody considering, I read somewhere that women have like 100, sanitary towel is like 1,750 naira now. Yeah. How many states are able to afford that? Now, their voice again is coming from us. Akosua is now speaking. Many of such persons coming out to speak, we start making this to make, trying to channel this in a way that it will make sense. And that is where I stand. Where we stand aside, empower people that speak for themselves.
Right. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you very much. You said something earlier that really made me laugh. Well, I already mentioned it, but I also love the fact that you had to emphasize on it. There's, when you're talking about, even when a woman commits a crime, the word still discriminates. That you're not just discriminating when they are not, you're even discriminating. Why would you want to commit this kind of, why not just a little tiny one, right? And the truth is, that's actually how the minds of the stakeholders in the justice system works. Because I can imagine a judge would rather want to, for instance, now would rather want to, okay, well, if there's a man facing a murder charge in my court, it looks like, it's almost normal. But when a woman surfaces facing a murder charge, the person that comes to your head is, how can you, like, how would you, how did you even sit down to think about this, right? And that's actually what's also reflects in every aspect of the justice system that affects women generally. And I also love the way you spoke about the implementation of the laws, especially in Nigeria, where of course we have like over 200 prisons, and just 3 prisons are all female. You can already tell what's going to happen. You can already tell what the situation is going to be. And aside from sanitation, it also affects even the rehabilitation, because the truth remains that when all they get is just some space created for them in the same facility with men, there's little they can do in those spaces. There's little they can explore. There's little they can there's little that can be done. Sometimes last year, I had the opportunity of visiting the Uganda prison, and something really amazed me. I've not actually seen it. Of course, there's nothing like that here in Nigeria. But even I'm not sure if I've seen it or heard of it in any other part of the world. It could be. I'm just saying. I was surprised that when I went to the prison in Uganda, I think he's Akosua. Can you remember the name of that prison? I'm trying to.
Zira.
Is it? Yes, Luzira or something. Yeah, something like that. And the amazing thing is, directly opposite this prison is a shelter for the children of the women. Directly opposite the prison. So what that means is that from Monday to Friday, these children are there. They are being taught, properly taken care of, properly fed. And from Friday to Sunday, that's Friday evening to Sunday, they go into the prison to spend time with their mothers. And I was like, how can a country be so intentional? Because that is the country that, like, you're so concerned about the well-being of the mothers, about the well-being of the children, and how they are balancing that out. Because the truth remains that when a woman is distracted, there is no way she can even put her mind into any reformation or any rehabilitation that you want people to do. There is no way. But the fact that, I'm seeing my child, I'm seeing my baby, I'm seeing my son in just few days, and he's going to spend some time with me, is enough for her to settle down and want to get herself better or learn better skills that would improve her generally. So there's still a lot that needs to be done in terms of implementation. I'll be going over to you, Akosua. And the question I'm going to be asking is this. From my interaction with you, as well as your bio that we read, you spent less than a year in the prison. What difference did you observe? People are, maybe a lot of people are used to seeing people who have spent numbers of years, but this is just months. So what difference did it make in terms of your voice before you got in, your voice after you got in, and how you've been able to put yourself together to the point of advocacy, like to the point of advocacy for the to speak up more, like to speak up to raise your voice, let me put it that way, to raise your voice for the challenges and the empowerment of women who has been impacted.
It talks about how women not have, trying to say, how do we change people's narrative, Because I feel like once you're in prison, it's like you're now like a disaster, like you're a reject into society. But I think that it's high time, like enough is enough. It doesn't mean that if you commit a crime, like not everybody's rotten, so it's like in a basket, you have so many rotten groundnuts, and then two of them make everything like go sour. So we have, yes, people who've got mental issues and will just kill someone out of nowhere or for no reason. And those people are usually under capital punishment, so they never get out. You see, so we're talking about people who have got misdemeanors. And if these people come out, what are we doing about it as a nation? What are we doing about it as Africa? What are we doing about it as the world? So we have so many people go into correctional facilities. Nobody hears their voices. Nobody says anything. But we are saying that these are the same people that can contribute positively to society. And this is why I go before certain platforms. Trust me, it's not easy. My husband's family always think I'm crazy. Yeah, but we are fighting a fight. We are fighting, when Martin Luther King was fighting for inclusion of people of color in America, way back then, it looked like, oh my gosh, this man is crazy, But look, now we have Kamala Harris as the Vice President of America. So it's a dream. INFIW advocates to end the incarceration of women and girls. And if I tell you today, we want to end incarceration of women and girls, you look at me and say, is she crazy? But this is how it starts. A journey starts with a step. So I think that it's high time we can live our lives with dignity. We are still human beings. We are mothers, we are sisters, we are grandmothers, we are aunties. We are so much more than they make us out to be. It's not fair that just because I went to a correctional facility, then you will label me with this label that I can never ever shed off, And I agree with Mrs. Ogechu, is very cardinal. It's just like even in the home setup. we've got those relatives who got no money. Even when you have issues in a family, they can't say anything. So they're going to listen to those people with money, and then they can have a say in the matter. So if we empower women, it's going to be very powerful. I'm part of JCI, and we were engaging with the Ministry of Youth and Ministry of Small Medium Enterprise. How can we then change the narrative of women incarcerated women to reduce on recidivism? Because the idea, the thing, I think the norm everywhere is most people who go out will still come back in. We have people in our organization, like, I'll give you a practical example. This woman was arrested for drug trafficking. And I interviewed her, and when she got out, she's got 6 siblings that depend on her. She can't speak English. She can't read or write. And then what do you expect her to do? You know, before any law, it's just like normal for a mother or a woman to look for, what will my children eat, before what does the law say. So if I'm a mother and my children are hungry, I'll go and do prostitution, I'll go and steal, or I'll go and do so many things. So this is why we say that most of these women are criminalized due to poverty. So then how do we then change this whole system? We have to look for ways that are sustainably economically empowering formerly incarcerated women. Right now, we have set up a project, thanks to Women First International, that came in to fund us. We are training 12 formerly incarcerated women and giving them SID grants at the end of the year. We hope that this will help them to establish themselves better and give them a better standing in society and help them not to go back to the crimes they have committed. I think that there's so many ways in which we can talk about all these things. I think as advocates or as people who are passionate about changing the world and making it a better place for people involved in the justice system, we should look at international laws. What do these laws say? The Bangkok rules, Tokyo rules, Mandela rules, and impose them on the government. You know, like, let's move with time. You know, let's implement some of these things, because it's actually to government's benefit if women are sentenced alternatively. It's actually to government's benefit if people are sentenced alternatively. I think that, like in Zambia, we have disorganized everything has to end with incarceration. You know, a pregnant woman steals perfume from ShopRite, and this woman has to be imprisoned for 2 months. You're bringing in the responsibility of that woman's health, the child, and everything, all those complications. How do we then normalize saying that we can alternatively sentence people? Here in Zambia, we've never had community service, Jokie. Can you imagine? Like, it's just literally not there. And this is like a big fight. Yes, it's a big fight for us. I was actually talking to them about what we saw in Luzira, you know, the graph of how long it has been in existence. And I'm like, we are too backward, and we need to catch up with the modern world. We need to catch up with the 21st century, because this is a field that, yes, everybody doesn't really look at, you know, because everybody will be looking to empower women. The same thing you said earlier on, I approached ABSA for sponsorship, and then they say, oh, we don't actually deal with people like women in that field. So it's high time we can be examples. And I think the other reason why people have always discriminated against women who have been to correctional facilities is because there's no really good examples. I think it's high time people can shine the light to say, okay, she has continents, and let's bring it back home so that we can better the lives of women involved in the justice system. I think I can go on all day, so I'm just going to end here. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you so much, Akosua. You've done, like, you've said it all. And yes, there was just a lot to take out from what you've spoken about. And I think the most one of the touching parts to me would be, oh, yes, I broke the law, and yes, I've gone to the prison, and I'm back. What else do you want me to do? And really, that's actually the reality of a whole lot of our beneficiaries. Like, what else should I do now? Because when they come out, they now have to deal with the issue of discrimination. I can remember one of our conversations some days ago, Akosoa, when you said, when you were trying to give me an example of, let me put it this way. There was a lady who had friends prior to going into the prison, and now she's out, and her friends didn't invite her for the birthday. And I'm like, you can imagine, is that serious? The discrimination is that massive, right? That friends don't even want to associate, but she's gone to the prison and back. And I feel like that's the fact that that acceptance is lacking has been one of the things that's contributed significantly to recidivism. Has been one of the things that, because really when you come out and you have the acceptance, you have people who are ready to take your hands, you have the society is ready to to give you what it needs, what it requires for you to be better. And what I've noticed in the course of my work is that even though we are saying that indeed prison has evolved over time, like there's a whole lot of development that is happening, most of all African countries are far behind in those developments because we are still stuck with the ideas of our colonial masters, right? And even though it's still evolving, there is still a lot that still needs to be done. There is still a whole lot. The narrative needs to change. The minds of the people needs to change. We need to know that, okay, this is the problem. Taking them to the prison, I was going to mention that the society is more focused on being punitive, just punishing. What happens after? Fine, you've arrested this person, you've taken the person to the prison. And there's something I used to emphasize on, that if the court sentenced a person to 5 years imprisonment, when it's exactly 5 years, the prison does not have the right to hold you for an extra minute. So what that means is that when it's 5 years, you have to come out. So the reality is a lot of these women are coming out. So what help are in place? What can we do to ensure that they are better? They can contribute significantly. They can contribute in a much more better way, because that's what really matters. If not, we're just leaving them, we're just still leaving them in the reality of their past and not giving them a hope or giving them an opportunity to explore the future and contribute significantly to the society where they are. Akosua, thank you so much for the clarity, the experiences shared. You've said it all. Thank you so very much. But we're still coming to you. I hope I can still get to hear more, even as we gradually try to round up. I will be handing over to Emilia now. So Emilia has there's some sort of similarity with your story compared to hers, and that's because she was in prison. She was in prison for less than a year as well. And I would want to ask Emilia, what are the difference now? Like, prior to you getting into the prison, I know, so Emilia is the house manager of the safe house, like I earlier said. So I've heard her story over and over again, but I just want her to share to just relate those experiences. What are the changes prior to when you got in? Your voice prior to when you got in, now that you're house, what are the challenges? The women you interact with, what are the challenges? What's that aspect of everything you would actually want to share some light on?
Thank you, Mr. Actually, when I got into the correctional center, or rather before I got into the correctional center, I had so many friends. I was somebody who loved going out. But when I got in, I found out I was like an outcast, because it's believed that anybody who passes through that incarceration, through that correctional center, becomes an outcast, and so you lose your voice. People don't want to associate with you as well then. Even some families also try to keep away from you. But being there, I needed to tell myself the truth. My life does not depend on anybody. My life is mine. So at that point in time, I chose to pick up the piece of my life and move on. And while I was there, I lost my house. Why? Because I was in prison. And because I was in prison, I had no voice. Nobody to speak for. Until some family members came to pick them. And then when I came out, I tried to talk to some people, but yet most of them rather, they try to avoid me. When I call, they don't pick up my phone. Just like I said, life happens and then life goes on. So I found out that there's so many things women lose when they go through the correctional center. And like I said in my brief introduction, these women who go through the correctional center as a result of poverty and poverty issues. Take, for instance, a woman who steals 3 Derrica cups of rice and is sent to the correctional center. And then when she serves her time of 6 months, she's sent out. And because she has nowhere to stay, she has nothing to do, she decided to go commit a bigger crime. or stealing from a church. And when they found out, they said she should do community service. She said no. What she wants to do is to go back to the prison because she has no place. She has no voice. She has nobody to take care of her. That is what is happening. And then now, coming out and being the house manager of CELSIR, I've heard lots of stories. I've heard of a woman who lost her. She had twins when she came out. And then because she had nowhere to stay, she didn't have a voice. And while she was sleeping in containers, she lost one of the twins. Until we're able to get through to her and bring her out. It's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking to hear stories of women who are supposed to be mothers, who are supposed to be wives, and they are just there. Nobody is listening to them. Nobody thinks about them. Now, when a woman comes out, like the pregnant woman we have in the safe house, when she came out, before we were able to reach her, she slept outside. She slept outside before we were able to reach her. There was no provision for her. Now tell me, if we had not gotten to her, what happens to her? This is somebody whose mother said, no, I don't want to see you. This is somebody who has nobody to talk to. And she had to sleep outside, a pregnant woman, until we were able to get to her by the next day. Women are really suffering. Women need to be heard because right now they don't have a voice. They are not even seen, not to talk of being heard. Women are not seen, not to talk of being heard. And a lot needs to be done. Right now, as we are taking them into the safe house, we're trying to make them go through the healing circle. And then in going through the healing circle, they're able to tell their stories. They are able to open up. And then rehabilitation starts from there. And apart from that, there are training programs for them because they need to undergo training, mental health training. They need to undergo other trainings as well because the safe house is just a temporary place for them. And then they learn skills. Nobody is idle there. So we learn skill. We teach them skill. Right now, we're into production of household products, which we have put out. We're getting calls. And then, apart from teaching them a skill and empowering them, they need to learn how to sell and advertise those products. So they're passing through trainings as well, to ensure that at the end of the day, when they come out and are being reintegrated back into society, they will go in better than they came out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Emilia, thank you so much for sharing those very pathetic story. I think I would also use the. All right. Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. And I was just going to say something that I can remember in the course of building a halfway home and registering it with the government, something shocked me. Like when we wanted to register, they didn't even have an idea of where to register us. Like we got there and they were like, okay, you guys cater for the prison and for the women who are coming out from prison. Is it a shelter for victims of domestic violence? And we said, no, it's for women who are coming out from prison. Okay, is it that's to tell you how, just like what Emilia said, they're neither being seen nor being heard. So they don't even know they exist, not to talk of listening to what are the things, what are the pains, what are the struggles that they are going through. And the interesting thing is, and that's the essence of this conversation, to just spur that interest in the mind of people, talk about the challenge, so you know that this category of people actually do exist and they have issues, real life issues. So you can imagine somebody who has to go through all of those struggles. I can remember one of the women in the house, and what she told us when the first day she was being admitted. She said when she was in prison and people pray for freedom, she doesn't pray. She said, I don't pray for freedom. He said, because I know I don't have anywhere to go. If they release me now, it means I'll go and sleep in the street. So it's better for me to be in the prison where I know that at least, even if I'm sleeping under the bed or I'm sleeping on the floor or I'm sleeping anywhere, I know that I am still being protected than being let out and I don't have a place to go. And we also have to bear in mind that women generally are they're at more risk of attacks. And so when these women come out, some of them are subjected to rape. Some of them become victims of that same thing you punish them of. Some of them get beaten, things get stolen from them. Some got even die in the process of it. And of course, that's because of how the society perceives a woman. The society generally perceives women in some kind of ways, not to talk of a woman who the society thinks deserves what she's going through. They are definitely, the actions and the reactions are definitely going to be totally different. And these stories are some of the things we've heard that we're saying, okay, there is more that we need to do than just sitting back and maybe probably writing and just representing, to saying that they have a voice and we need to make the voice heard and make it loud as much as possible. Makaita, I think I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you, Joke. I wanted to reiterate on the issue of whether women do have a voice or not. When we look at women's rights in general, we look at the right of women, for access to pads or education. Those things can be openly talked about. You can stand in the middle of the road and you can sing about pets, many other aspects, in relation to women's rights. But when we talk about the voice, the amplified voice of justice impacted women, is there freedom for women in this population to go and stand in the middle of the road and start talking about their challenges? No, there isn't. So the reason why I say there is no voice is because, you look at two things. It's one thing to be able to open your mouth and say something, and then it's another for your voice to be reciprocated. So, merely having that, ability or the right to just go and talk and nothing fruitful comes out of it, I think it's a bit challenging and keeping quiet. I've looked at a lot of women who are speaking about justice impacted lifestyles, from prison to reintegrating back into society. It's a very small group of people, a very tiny group of people. When I started my organization about 2 years ago, I think I found there's Teresa Jeronje in Kenya and maybe one other lady in South Africa, and just a handful of people. And we cannot call that a voice. We need to be able to to have a level platform for us to speak up. Because if we say that we have a voice, when 99% of women cannot easily come out onto the playing field and say their challenges, then we are actually doing a disservice to those people. We need to openly come up front and say, we do not have equal opportunities vis-a-vis other women. We do not have equal opportunities vis-a-vis climate change. You can talk about climate change. Nobody understands what climate change is, or how it affects humanity. Because there's a lot of studies that are going on about it, but you can talk about it so openly. But can I talk about these issues? Can I talk about children? Can I talk about children, who are in conflict with the law openly? No, I cannot. So we need to be open. We need to have one voice as women in this cause and say we do not have a voice. Give us a level playing field for us to be able to air out our challenges, because we are a very small group of people and we need to represent those women who cannot speak out for themselves. So that's one thing that I really wanted to passionately stress out. And okay, I cannot say a lot of things at the same time, so I will hand it over to you, Joki.
Thank you, Makaita. I think you spoke from a direction that we've actually not even looked at as experts in this conversation. When you talked about equal rights vis-a-vis other women. So now the world is talking about the rights of women, but the truth remains that even women are discriminating this class of women. I don't even understand what I'm saying. Even women, like, how will I put it now? The world is advocating so much about the challenges and the problems and the achievements of women generally. But the truth remains that even the women that the world is advocating for are even discriminating the women that has been impacted by the justice system, because they feel like, no, this is just a no-go area. We don't want to have anything to do with them. Oh, they are, they don't come into this category and all of all those things. And yeah, you're right. There is just need for us to put together a voice voices and say, yes, these people do have rights, they do have challenges, and, you know, extending it even to children who are impacted by the justice system, children in juveniles, in the juvenile correctional homes, and, you know, just talking about issues that pertains to them, and asking for those rights, asking for those help, asking for those assistance, without actually, you know, being ashamed to do it, or without being condemned. In the course of my work, I've had people who tell us something like, "You're representing these people that are supposed to be killed and thrown away." We've had conversations like that. There are people who even look at us as if we're as good as the people who are in prison. And so it looks like the discrimination of the community that we serve is even beginning to rub us on we, the advocates.
Exactly.
Have you experienced that, Makaita?
Yeah, you know, when it comes to, you know, the perceptions of community, I think there's a lot of education that needs to be rendered, because, you know, they are not aware of the challenges or how it affects them, you know, directly. Because, and also another thing that I realized about our prison systems is that, yes, there might be some improvements, you know, from the punitive system to corrections. But if you look at how society or how our prisons are run, they are run like private schools, okay? So the community itself does not have a relationship with, you know, the correctional facility department in whatever country. So already there is a barrier, there's a demarcation. So the community is left to think about what they want to think vis-a-vis what is really going on in our prisons. You know, we have a new act that is here in Zimbabwe, and they are stressing on about, you know, corrections, you know, the system no longer being, you know, punishment based, but the community doesn't know anything about that. Their minds are still stuck on what you are saying. You know, these people should rot in prison, these people should be punished, these people should die. But a prison term, everybody who goes to prison, you know, will come out. Prison has an expiry date. So when you are releasing someone from prison, who are you releasing into the community? Are you releasing a mentally capable person? Are you releasing a very angry and vile person? Who exactly are you releasing into society? And that is very important. So when society begins to say that people who are coming from prison or people with criminal records should rot in prison, they are going on to react, you know, to people who come out of prison and are not received. And when they are not received, they look for alternative ways or unorthodox ways of survival. So they now go and commit crimes. They now go, it's sort of like retaliation. Like, you're not giving me food, you're not giving me attention, you're not listening to me, but I have to survive. A human being has to eat. A human being must have money. So what other ways do I have of survival? The only way I have to say these people are bad, they should rot in prison because they don't listen. He got arrested and he came out and still stole, and he came out and still is a menace to society. So they can't demarcate that it is the community perception, it is the community's response to justice impacted people that is contributing to recidivism. All right. So there is a great need for education into our communities, starting with our correctional departments themselves. They need to be open. They need to make that system transparent. They need to make their operations visible to the general community. It's the correctional facility that needs to come out. You know, here in Zimbabwe, we have a socialite, Maititi, who was arrested. You know, I think they changed the narrative, because during her time, her tenure in prison, she would walk around, you know, in her prison regalia with, she would sing, she would, you know, do dramas, go on radio and speak. And that was kind of, you know, like a surprise factor for people, and they started a prison system that we want, something that is open. So that is where, when we have that type of openness, people will begin slowly to understand, slowly to understand what is really going on. And that's when she came out, a lot of people were happy. When she went in, people were angry at her. But when she came out, people were welcoming. Most people were welcoming of her. So imagine if that happens to many other women, right? That's the start of, like voicing. That's where voicing of the rights that we are talking of needs to start within the prison system. Because when you now come out, you're on your own. So the notion that the retribution notion is actually what I think is a protective mechanism by the community. They think they are protecting themselves, but I always say prisons give a false sense of security. Prisons give a false sense of, safety in society, because the real criminals are actually roaming out in the street. You're celebrating, one case of rape in a month. How many other rapists are roaming in society? As a prosecutor, I think I spoke to you, Jackie, about this the other day. That I have never, in my tenure as a prosecutor, the 5 years that I served, seen a prominent business person, a government official, or anybody with money coming in for rape. It's always these, men from the rural villages. These are the cases that the police will bring. Where are these cases being filtered? Who is filtering these cases? Let me tell you one thing. Money is filtering these cases. Power is filtering these cases. Because when I have money and I'm raping a small child at home as a father, I'm going to go and bribe the police, in our corrupt society. So prison gives a false sense of security in our societies. The people whom you think are actual criminals in prison are not actually actual criminals in prison. The real criminals are out there because they are buying off their freedom. So prisons, being a safeguard or safe measure, what we need to do is dig. Not able to address those people with money, but what we can do is dig into the root causes of crime. What is causing crime in our societies, and how can we change that? Let us look at rape. In my country, rape is the #1 prevalent offense, and it's almost in the family compound, and it's usually the father or uncle raping young ladies in the family compound. Nobody is going on to dig deep down as to what is the root cause. Is it ritualistic beliefs? Is it some type of religion? Is it some type of mental illness? Nobody cares about that. What they care about is singing and chanting when the person is arrested. All right. But how many more are doing that the same thing and getting away with it? So I think our criminal justice system is doing a disservice to us, because it really focuses. It doesn't really give a broad answer. I'm sure when they started this whole thing, they wanted to apprehend people who are committing crimes and make the society safer. But the criminal justice system as it stands is actually worsening crime, and it's a breeding ground for poverty. We are talking about women today. Most women are suffering because of our correctional systems. Their husbands are in prison and they are left to care for 5 families, food, water, bills, rentals, right? And then when that mother is no longer able to care for the family in a proper manner, she is going to start, committing offenses, right? Because it's easy to sell drugs, in the ghettos, than it's easy to sell a plate of salsa, So you'd rather commit an offense. And when that woman's child is witnessing her mother selling drugs, she too, or he too, will probably, start engaging in drugs. And then you have a girl child in that home that's set up who will be exposed to all these men coming to buy drugs, and she will end up engaging in early sexual practices, prostitution, maybe early pregnancies, teen pregnancies, and HIV and AIDS. So these are factors that need to be highlighted to the community so that they will stop the saying that let them rot in prison. Yes, the father raped. We are angry, but what is going on behind the scenes? We have apprehended one person, right? But what is going on in that man's family? We may be rising 5 criminals from that family, because the sons will start roaming around communities, stealing from people, right? So in my perspective, prisons, the criminal justice as it stands, is a breeding ground for more crime. I spoke of restorative justice in the beginning, the need for Africans to sit down and devise our own system. Back in the days, even if you murdered, did you know that, Joke? If you kill someone in our community or even rape, there were no prisons. You would pay a head of cattle, right? So this head of cattle that you would pay to the victim's family would, let's say the father of the victim, a man was killed during a robbery, and now the family is left by themselves. This head of cattle would sustain the family. There won't be any need for this woman to become a prostitute to feed her 5 kids. At the same time, the punishment directed to the accuser now is to pay the 20 head of cattle, which is going to taint in his crow. Back in the days, that was a serious punishment, much more than, taking someone's liberty. So you would suffer, a dent in his riches. So at the end of the day, no father, the breadwinner of the first family has not been taken away. And even though it's said that the breadwinner of the second family was taken away due to that murder, the family gets to receive something. It may not amount to it being the father, but they get to have something. So I remember a case, this is my last statement. We were discussing a case in one of the programs that I was doing about a family that said we cannot go to court. Let's keep this issue between us families, because if we go to court, we are not going to get anything. The criminal justice system is going to send this person to jail, and we are just going to suffer. So let us pay each other, you see. So already in our communities, people are avoiding our system, and they are trying to solve matters by themselves, because what humans really need is food. We need money to send kids to school, but the criminal justice system it gives a blind eye to that. It's like a self-centered system. Get everybody who is wrong into prison. So yeah, that is my contribution. Thank you, Joke.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Makaita. Very key points, interesting points. There is need for us to start digging deep into the root causes of crime. Like, we need to really look at it beyond, just the punishment, or beyond incarceration and all of that. I think that's actually so true. And there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of education. The prison needs to be more open to that. They need to, because I feel like one of the reasons for stigmatization is also because the prison is not talking enough about the programs they have in place. That is when they have it, the few ones they have. And so there's this general notive, like for instance, in the Nigerian case, there's this general notive, that notion that the prison, nothing is happening in the prison. When people are locked up, that's all for them and all of that. And interestingly, one of the things that has come up in most of the speakers' contribution has been economic power. So really, you're actually very right. Most of the people that are accused of some of these offenses, when you look at them, they are not the wealthy, they are not the rich. Are you saying that it's only the poor that commits crime? So who is receiving it? Just like what you said, who is making those adjustments? Who is taking up those who has the power, who has the money, and leaving those who cannot help themselves, those who cannot even afford the services of counsel? so there is need for us to start emphasizing on this so that we can look at the root cause, and that would now influence the decision and the solution that would be looked into to make, the criminal justice what it should be. We're rounding up. I'm so conscious of time now. I'm just going to, before I direct it to Mrs. Ogechi, I think I just want Emilia and Akosua can go first to give us, just in 2 minutes, aside economic power, aside poverty, what are the other root causes that you think we should be looking at? Aside economic power, we've said so much about economic power. Are there other root causes that you think we should avert our minds here for the sake of we advocates, for the sake of all the participants who are here, so that they can also become advocates as well as regards, talking about people who have been impacted by the justice system. So I would really, Akoso, are you here? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So can you, what other root causes do you want to draw the attention of the people to in just 2 minutes?
Aside from being criminalized due to poverty, I think one other thing that people need to consider would be the mental health of an individual. For women, I think most of the GBV cases are done because of the state of their mental health. So what was this person thinking? What was involved? And so many other factors. So for me, I think mental health is something very, very cardinal.
All right. Thank you so very much. That's true. The mental health status of these women, of course, needs to be looked at as well. Emilia, are there other root causes you want us to pick out from this conversation?
Yes. Like I just have said, these women needs they need to improve on themselves. They need to believe in themselves. They need to forgive themselves. These are some of the things they need to do. Believe in themselves, forgive themselves, love themselves, accept themselves for who they are. And I want to suggest here, at this point in time, that many are in there that they should have used restorative justice rather than criminal justice, because many of them are just rotting away for things normally should have been settled outside. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Thank you so much, Emilia, for that point as well. I will be handing it over to Mrs. Ogechi, and I just want you to to just drop some thoughts in our mind with regards to access of justice, how we can use it as a tool, how we can what we should be calling for when it comes to access to justice, as side by side, how it affects women who have been impacted by the justice system. What are the things you think we should bear in mind, so that as we make this move, as we proceed with this advocacy, with this conversation, we also have in-depth knowledge of what we should be asking for and what we should be demanding for, and the changes that we should be calling for. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you very well. I can hear you. Okay, Joke, thank you so much. Each time when you talk about access to justice, you equally look at the legal framework supporting access to justice. And when discussions like this go on, there is this critical element of from which this, jurisdiction are you speaking? For me, the key thing is the challenge we disconnect between the law, what the law says, and what happens in practice. Now, coming from the Nigerian context, most of the points that have been raised regarding restorative justice, community service, in fact, non-custodial. Okay.
Can you hear me now, ma'am?
Yes, I can.
I don't even know which one. I think it was mine. I don't know, but we just got thrown out. But thank God we're back. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So what I was trying to say is that we are all completely empowered. Are you getting me? We derive, like within the Nigerian context, most of the things we need in terms of pushing ahead, protecting the rights of incarcerated women, Everything about their rehabilitation, their reintegration back to the society have already been provided by the laws. Now, what is the big challenge is in the disconnect between the provisions of the law and what happens in practice. And it is from that angle that I am coming to say, now, since the laws have made provisions, we are empowered already. But the point is that with all the powers within the law, lack of knowledge of those protections that the law provides. If I know that I am protected against a particular thing, is a different thing from when I do not know.
Can anyone hear
and that
me?
goes
I
to
want
the
to be sure I'm still here.
Can
you hear
are
me,
you
Ma?
still here? Can you?
Okay, yes, I'm still here. And I can hear you.
Carrying my laptop up and down. Can you still hear me? Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So the whole essence of the argument I'm trying to make is that we will be in a better place. A lot, like from the Nigerian context, was done in terms of advocacy to get all these provisions regarding restorative justice, community service, and the rest of them into the law. Now, the challenge we have is that from 2015, when we had the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, up to the time of 2019, with the coming of Nigerian Correctional Service Act, which gave details of these different components of non-custodial measures, which can avail women. We are still having challenges of implementation. Now, the much advocacy has happened. Now, the next level of things that should be happening is getting the beneficiaries to equally be part and parcel of the advocacy. And that can only come from the point of knowledge, from the point of sensitization, from the point of awareness creation. And while this awareness is being created, it has to equally happen within the society. Like there's something I keep telling people. If somebody goes into custody and spends 10 years and nothing changed, once 10 years is over, the person should be back into the community. And once custodial sentence must be for one sole reason, and that is the safety and security of the community. And when somebody has not been rehabilitated and is back into the society, it becomes a big problem. Now, stepping ahead, my own recommendation is that beyond what we are doing from our own side, the kind of thing Akosua is doing should equally be happening, where we have a community of ex-incarcerated persons come out and advocate alongside what we are doing to make these communities accept, the society accept that there can be a change. You can imagine, you talked about intersectionality. Of course, among women, we have differences. Even among women that are in custody, there are differences. An incarcerated woman that is educated, her life will not be the same with the one that is not educated when the person comes out. An incarcerated woman that has mental health challenges, her life will not be the same with one that is mentally and psychologically balanced. Their reintegrating back into the society will be different and at different levels. Incarcerated woman that is supported by her husband and family cannot be the same as the one that has been rejected by her community, by her own husband. So what we are saying in effect is that there must be knowledge, there must be education. And this education has to go into the community because mostly it's the community that is receiving these people back. There's something I wrote about second chance. We should be preaching about society giving second chance to persons that have done wrong and are out back into the community. So the fact that you went to custodial center and stayed there, came out, you were my tailor, does not mean that you have lost the skill of tailoring. So why should I say because of that, I won't give you clothes to sew again? By so doing, I'm planting seed of further criminality in you. Let me end with this. Although we are talking about women, I remember in 2020, a viral video of a young man that pilfered, he actually stole a phone and must have sold it for 1 kobo or the other, but he was incarcerated. This young man, if the laws had operated the way they should have been giving community service, and he would have spent time providing service to the community, and that would have been the end. But he was sent into custody as against what the law said. And by the time he came out, he had graduated. He graduated and perfected the act of criminality. And he ended up becoming a big challenge to the in the cause of armed robbery. Nobody is the society that eventually bore the brunt of his being sent into custody. And that goes for women. What I'm saying in effect is that we should do more education. We should do more sensitization for the community, more awareness creation. Let them understand the implication, the general implication of incarcerating women in the first instance, because the effect boomerangs. The effect goes back to their children, to the community. If there's an aged member of the family they are attending to, of course, the person may even die untimely. And to acknowledge the international instruments like the Tokyo rules, it acknowledged that fact, that the mere fact that women are caregivers should be put into consideration during sentencing so that they can be given community sanction. They can be given sanctions that would enable them to still provide that kind of services within the community. But most important, we need more. We need to hear more from the people that have gone through this, that have suffered. It makes more sense when they come out to speak. Although we know because of stigmatization, it's difficult to achieve this. That's why what you are doing is great. Going the route of, first of all, rehabilitating them, giving them a place where they can stay, gather themselves together, put together one form of skill or the other, come back to the society more empowered. They can now stand firm to say, yes, I am equally a human being, because they are no longer begging, because to an extent they can put food on their table and they don't care. And the way people approach these things, as long as you are not a burden to anybody, you are moving on. Of course, you were here in 2020 when high-profile persons during COVID-19 were arrested and the things that happened. Power in the voice in her was that she went to, she brought an is the way it is just of relation with this sector. The knowledge and skills in what there's no more.
Thank you so much, Ma. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, thank you so very much, Ma. And then you already took us to the last agenda, which is the recommendation. We're going to, our time is fast spent, but we'll create a little bit of time. At this point, I want to say thank you to all participants that are still here joining the conversation, and to all of our speakers as well. Thank you so very much. I'm just going to plead for a little bit of time for us to receive feedbacks and questions. But before then, I would just go back shortly to speakers for their recommendations. So with regards to, in view of all of the things that has been discussed today, what are the recommendations you want to give, you want documented, you want emphasized, so that we can keep that in mind even as we move forward with the advocacy. So I would be calling Makaita. Let's just make it a bit just short, maybe between 1 to 2 minutes. We're done, and then move it to the next person. So I'll go with Makaita.
Okay.
Your recommendation?
My recommendation, I think I've been saying it throughout this conversation, really, is for us Africans to sit down, go back to the drawing board. I know it will take a long time, maybe never in our age, but if we continue advocating for it, maybe one day it will happen, to devise a criminal justice system that resonates with us as Africans. We see some of the conventions that are being talked about, they are there, but they're not even working in places where they are rectified. There are still challenges. So my recommendation is for us to have a law that looks into our environment, that looks into us as, Africa, our culture, our tradition, and maybe someday we will be able to have an admirable criminal justice system. I wanted to talk about, just briefly, countries like Japan, Denmark and Finland. There is like less crime in those countries because they went and took an approach that is individualistic to their own countries. And now the crime, is it Finland that has actually closed down some prisons because of the low crime rates? So we can't have like a broad law for everybody. We are just different as a people. That's my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Makaita. Akoso, if you can still hear me, would you love to share your recommendation with us? Akoso, are you still here? Okay, Emilia, would you love to share your recommendation? Akoso is here, but I don't know, maybe it's network from our end.
Okay. For my own recommendation, I think this special women, as I call them special, they should be seen, they should be heard, they should be involved in some of the policy making in Nigeria. Because there's no way you can know it better than someone who has gone through the process, somebody who has passed through that route. So in order to help others, they need to be included in some of this policy making in Nigeria. And then more rehabilitation programs from the government or from other organizations for those special women with special needs. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you're actually very right with regards to involving them, because there's a lot that can be made from experience. When you have people who have gone through, who have an experience of a situation, they are in a much more better place to tell you what the problem that brought them to that place is and what can be done in preventing it. But interestingly, if they are not seen, they are not heard, how would they make those contributions? So you just have people making policies out of assumptions, out of, oh, I think this is what they go through. I think, and for me, that's like one of the exciting things I've experienced with our halfway home. Hearing the women's story and just knowing that these stories are not just assumptions, they are real and they're happening every day. And at this point, I want to say thank you so very much to each and every of our speakers for the brilliant contribution, brilliant conversation. It's quite enlightening, and I'm sure our participants are going to bear witness to that. I'll just open it up now for questions, contributions, or any other way you want to contribute to this. I think I can see. So if you have homegrown solutions, do work. Thank you so much. So if you have any question, just raise your hand. Just raise your hands and then we can take you if you have any question. But I can see that there are exciting points being dropped in the chat box. Yes, advocate for, homegrown solutions do work better than foreign. Makes sense, the recommendation to look at our culture and environment. Thank you so much, marvelous. Francis says advocate for Men Too on Men's Day. Localized justice on this platform. Speakers have made my day and contributed immensely. Also CELSIR for the recording this live. All right, thank you so much for that. Yes. We interestingly, all of the representatives representative here, maybe aside from Akosua, advocates for justice impacted persons generally. But of course, because the event is targeted towards International Women's Day, that's why the focus and all of the lights are on women on a day like this. So please permit us, Francis. Thank you. All right. I'm also trying to okay. Justice impacted women needs to be seen, yes, aired and empowered for a better reintegration back into the society. That's very true. Yes, thank you very much. So if there are no questions, I want to believe I'm not missing anything out. If you have questions, we can still entertain them. But if we have no questions, maybe we've come to the point where we need to start drawing the curtains. But really, thank you so much for such an interesting conversation. I'm so happy and we're so excited. We're grateful to all of the participants across the other African countries. We say thank you for creating time to join us here. We'll keep having conversations like this, and we hope that you would continue to be a part of the work that we do in collaboration with several other persons across Africa, across the world, to advocate for justice impacted women and bring them to a much more better place. So thank you so much for your time. It's been an interesting afternoon. Thank you for, just being a part of this. Thank you so very much. I would be handing it over to Fumi, and then, she'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We believe you've been enlightened. I learned a lot, my Kata. Akosua, thank you for sharing your beautiful experiences with us. Thank you, Mrs. Ogechi. It was really good hearing from you. I feel like I have to come and take some personal lessons as well. So thank you to our participants from across Africa. We're really grateful. We hope that when we organize things like this subsequently, we would have you join us. And I would like to say, do enjoy the rest of your day and happy International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Month. Have fun, everybody. Take care. Bye.